We are back for another episode of the ABJ Podcast, episode 108. For people at home, still pre-recorded. This has been done in November of 2023, just to keep everybody on the same page. Still grinding, like I said. There's going to be an episode that's going to be halfway through, and then a bunch of other ones, and then back to here. So like I said, it jumps around a lot. But huge thank you to Raz Darkwolf from YouTube helping me use his StreamYard so I can get these interviews done towards the end of this. I will be coming back sooner on interviews where I won't be doing a bunch in a span and then dropping them. I like them be a little more current so people can talk about what's more relevant to them now. My goal is I'm probably going to record 2 or 3 more just to get me to the end of this month, and then the next month you'll see a new batch of people for season. This is technically season 2, but you're going to see people return from season 1 that were part of season 2, because a lot of those people I talked to 5, 6, 7 months ago, and they were very new in their career, and we're going to touch back in with a lot of people who are on that journey to come back and say, hey, 8 months later, where are you at? So there's going to be a lot of people you're going to see repeat guests on this podcast. Not just people new in the business, but anybody, but just to kind of like a recap episode. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And a lot of people that we're going to be talking about that will be on that future episodes have been trained by my guest today. Got to meet him at Camp Leapfrog, part of the tag team division. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of what he does. He kills it. I can't keep going on about it. Please check the links below for ways to support the podcast, as well as my guests for social media, merch pages, and everything like that. Without further ado, let me bring in my guest, Sonny Defarge.
Hello, sir, and good evening or morning or afternoon to the folks watching.
Yes, thank you once again so much for doing this. I appreciate the hell out of you. So professional wrestler, trainer. Let's just go down the list real quick. What all have you done or do in this business?
I mean, wrestling and training. I think I did commentary once.
Yes.
But if you mean more specifics than that, championships here and there, mostly tag team titles with Mr. Crummels, of course. Canada, England, as far north as Vermont, south as Florida, never further west than Chicago for some reason. Okay. But I did work in Japan with Michinoku Pro, did a little tour with them for a while, and still training people now, but I'm training people in Northeast Ohio now, still wrestling wherever they'll take me. And I plan to keep going until I'm too old or till I can't afford it anymore, I guess.
Yeah, we'll put a little bit of a stamp on you. Maybe not an age stamp, but how long have you been in this business?
Let's see. We started officially training, Mr. Crummels and I. When I say we, I'm usually referring to Crummels and I. We started officially training in 2015.
So you guys came in together?
Yep. We grew up together. We came in together. Started training at the Wrestle Factory in 2015, July of 2015. By June of 2016, we had debuted. So that means 7.5 years.
Wow.
Yep. And then the 7.5 years of obligatory backyard before that, of course.
Yes. What is your earliest memory of professional wrestling and when you caught that bug?
I think the earliest memory was like flipping through the channels. It was a Saturday morning. I remember I lived in New Mexico, and I was just flipping through the channels, and I just see a sumo wrestler in the ring with a guy dressed in all black with mascara on, and he's got a tie, and I was just like, what is this? And I'm watching, and they're fighting, and I was with my brother at the time, and he knew these people somehow. He was like, that's Yokozuna. I said, okay, who's that? He's like, this is WWF. I'm like, okay. And I remember Yokozuna climbs up and he does the bonsai drop onto, if in case it wasn't obvious, it was The Undertaker.
The Undertaker.
Onto The Undertaker's chest. And I'm like, well, that guy's dead. And my brother's freaking out. He's like, oh, he's done. And The Undertaker sits up and Yokozuna falls over and freaks out and runs away. And to me, just watching this, what I later found out was a theatrical performance, was like seeing him freak out about it, seeing the audience freak out about it, that is the first time I got interested. I didn't really catch the bug yet until years and years later when I had all but forgotten about pro wrestling. And by this point, I'm living in Ohio, and a friend of mine in must have been elementary school. He says, "Oh yeah, you watching SmackDown tonight, or you watching Raw tonight, or one of the two?" And I said, "I don't know what that is." He's like, "I think it was still WWF at the time." He's like, "WWF, SmackDown." I was like, "Oh no, I don't watch wrestling." And he's like, "Well, you should." And you know how it is when you're a kid and you're just trying to get everybody to do what
Buckle
you're
up.
doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and eventually he gets me around to it, and I start watching. And at the time, the Hardys were really, really active, and
Yep.
they are what made me catch the wrestling bug, was watching them, because they're diving off of each other and they're flipping through the air, and they're not dressed like pro wrestlers. They don't look like pro wrestlers. They're just these two guys, these two brothers that are just going, and they're flipping, and they're using, and they this was around TLC time, so they've got chairs
Mhm.
and ladders and tables, and they're doing all this, and I thought it was just the coolest thing. Um, and since then, it's just kind of been an off and on relationship of, I'm going to watch wrestling for this many years straight, and then for one reason or another, I'm going to stop watching, and then I'm going to jump back in, and I'm going to learn all the new characters, and then I'm going to stop. And it's a love-hate relationship. You know how
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. I was absolutely obsessed from the second I seen it as a little kid until about high school, when I cared more about girls and sports, and then
Yep.
wrestling converted me into a mixed martial arts fan
Oh,
because of Ken Shamrock. I went to my cousin's house and he's like, "Yo, we're
excellent.
watching the fights," and I was like, "Oh, cool, wrestling's on. I'm in." And we go there, and it's Tito Ortiz versus Ken Shamrock 1. And I was like, "This ain't wrestling," but I know Ken Shamrock, and they're like, "Yeah, he's a legit fighter." And then I'm like, "Wait, this is real?" And I'm watching like, "Oh, this is real." And then I'm like, "This is great art. Like it's a chess match. It's so cool." And I just
Mhm.
fell in love. And then I was like, forget professional wrestling. This is my, and like for probably 10 years MMA. And then I got back in. Everyone's like, yo, there's two people in wrestling you should start watching because you like the old school stuff. And they're the embodiment of old school wrestling. It's like, cool. Who are they? He's like, Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. And I turned on to Royal Rumble, and they wrestled at Royal Rumble, and then they left the company and never came back for another
Yep.
7 years.
Good times.
Yeah. And so I started watching when they left, which is good because it made their returns that much more special then. And I
Yep.
kind of jumped in that point. So I missed the whole like ruthless aggression era. I didn't see a second of that. Um, are you currently still watching the active stuff now? And if so, like what do you prefer?
I'm sort of on like a little, uh, like a hiatus from watching a lot of the wrestling. Just, I mean, mostly because
You're
my
living
days
it.
are just packed, and because I'm living it. But it's really like, I get up, I go to work. After work, I go to the gym. I get home, I make food for that night. I make food for the next day. I take a shower, and then I'm like, huh, it's 10:30 at night. I should probably go to bed. And then I do it again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And every now and then, if I remember, if I can even recall what day of the week it is, I'll flick on the TV if it's Dynamite, if it's Raw, if it's SmackDown.
Yeah.
I've all but forgotten that NXT is on TV now.
Yeah.
Ever
And
since
it's
they
moving.
switched
And
to right. I
it's moving to
I
CW now.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
See, I don't even know that. I don't even
Yep.
know that.
Yep.
But it's one of those weird mental breaks where, like, every time a pay-per-view comes up, or a premier live event, I think
It's
is what
still
the
pay-per-views.
WWE calls them
Yeah.
now. Every time a pay-per-view comes up, I'll usually try and watch it,
Yeah.
unless I'm booked on that day. Uh, so I kind of get like the cliff notes of the stories. So and of course I follow everything still. I see it all on social media, and I see like clips on YouTube and stuff. I can't sit for the 2 hours, 3 hours, and watch it. But
Yeah.
I still kind of know what's going on.
Yeah. I have a hard time now with WWE. I'm kind of bored with their storylines. They recap way too much for me, and their week to week wrestling all gets recapped in a 4 hour pay per view when you could have cut half the recap out and actually put more matches in.
Yeah.
So I definitely, and only because I feel like this company is more of the independent vibe, because 90% of them are all from the independent. Well, 98% of them are all independent wrestlers anyway.
Yeah.
I lean more towards AEW, and I have some friends who wrestle
Yeah.
there, and it's more it's a lot more enjoyable for me to watch.
Yeah, I know a couple of guys in AEW
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, all the only ones I only know is Willow, because I got to work with her at Camp Leapfrog and then watch her, and then Action Andretti. I worked with him for a while at PPW, and then watching him
Okay.
make his debut and then beat Jericho is there's just an
It's
insane.
crazy.
He's him and Willow are the first two people I was like from our scene that like made that next jump, and I'm like I don't know.
Okay.
It's exciting to watch your friends do cool things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When like the first days of like Dark and Dark Elevation, I every week I got to go, I know them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know them because they'd swing through Pittsburgh, and just from growing up in Ohio and knowing people here and then training in Philly, Crummels and I just bounced back and forth
Yeah.
from Philly to Cleveland for most of our bookings. So of course
I
we
didn't realize how
intermingled with
big
the Pittsburgh
Cleveland was
scene.
as a wrestling town. I never realized how big it was. And then you start looking at who came
Yeah.
out of there, like, that's a big Ohio's a big wrestling state, man. Yeah,
There's
that's
more
probably as big as
independent
PA.
wrestling companies in Ohio than any other state.
That's insane. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. Unfortunately, I don't know many of them. I need to get better at that.
I will tell you this, like right up front, you're not going to hear of any of them until you do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because these
The
aren't
only
the
one I
kind of
really
places
know is
that have like a
OVW,
massive
right?
streaming library. OVW is not even in Ohio.
Wasn't it? It started there, right?
Well, it's in the Ohio Valley. I think it's always been in Kentucky though.
Oh, really?
Don't quote me on that.
I'm wrong.
I'm not the history guy. I am not the history guy.
Yeah, I have
You're
no idea.
people watching this. I'm so sorry if you had a different image of me. Like I dreamed of wrestling since I was a kid, and I know all this history. I am not that guy, and I'm
Neither one of us
sorry.
are BP Burke. Yeah,
Right,
BP Burke probably
you-
rolling in his grave.
You could name. You could just throw out a random year and the name of a random pay-per-view, and Crummels could tell you who opened that show, who closed that show, like what, like maybe the date of the show. Like who knows? Crummels he's the history guy.
Yeah.
Bring him on the show. Y'all can talk history.
Yeah. Well, him and Brian will go back. Brian, I literally go to BP. I go to wrestling trivia with, and we go to wrestling trivia at Tony Deppin's brewery, and right like the next town over.
Mhm.
And Deppin banned him from trivia for a month because he was too good. And then he's like, "All right, you're allowed to play again."
Hey, good reason to get banned though.
Yeah. So the gimmick is he's like the Undertaker. He comes in, he's a shoe in, he's winning, and I just keep giving him beers like Paul Bear's Urn. Like I just like, here you go. And then we usually win a gift card, and I just give it. He just takes the gift card and goes back up and gets another beer or two.
Perfect.
But yeah, he's lost one time. I wasn't there. I'm not saying I would have helped, but he lost one time by 1 point, and I think the way he got it wrong was like he forgot one member of like the Ravens flock. Like he had everybody but missing like two or something, but it still haunts him to this day. You bring it up, he gets pissed about it. So yes, yeah, definitely do that. So when if you're doing a backstage interview, be like, before you go any further, VP Merrick, name the Ravens flock. He'll
Everyone.
completely, he'll shut down. He'll have a full-blown panic attack. That is a good bit. So when did you transition from, I'm going to start pursuing this as a career and finding your school and training?
So that happened. I was actually in college. So I graduated from high school, and throughout the back half of my high school career, I was involved in theater a lot. Like growing up, I always wanted to. I knew I always wanted to be a performer of some kind because I was always into whether it was movies or TV shows or pro wrestling. I was always into just performance. And back half of high school, I did stage stuff. I acted. I was John Proctor in The Crucible. I was Macbeth in Macbeth, and then I in my head that was just this is a thing that I'm doing that's really really fun. I got to figure out a different way to do this though. And then I graduated. I took a year off because I didn't know what to do in college, and I'm of that era where as you were going through college, as you were going through high school, all they shoved down your throat was you have to go to college or you're gonna freeze and die. You'll never eat again. And so I was like, I have to go to college, but I don't know what I'm going to do. And the first year after, I helped cast the play for my high school, and then I went to every performance of it, and then went out with the cast and the crew and stuff afterwards. And I said, I really, really miss this. So I think I'm going to go to school for theater. So I go to school for theater, and while I'm going to school for theater, I need something to do on the weekends. So I start backyard wrestling. So I was like, this is something that I like. Why not? I can learn how to do this stuff. Why not? So Crummels and I and a bunch of our friends, we start
Now,
doing that.
did you meet him in high school, college? When did you guys meet?
Met Crummels in high school. Um, so that would have been freshman year of high school. So,
Was your bond because of
864 years
wrestling?
ago. It wasn't. We found out that we both liked wrestling eventually. The
Mhm.
bond was just, I think, a different friend introduced us. Um, there was people that would show up before school started, and we would just hang out in the cafeteria. Like the doors for the school would open at, uh, you know, let's say 7 o'clock, but class wasn't until like 7:40, and I would get a ride there with a parent that worked before 7:40. So it was like, okay, I guess I go in and I just sit and hang out.
Mhm.
And eventually Crummels starts showing up. And so it was like, oh, this is my friend. Actually, it might have been his cousin. It was like, this is, Crummels. And then we start hanging out just in the mornings and then at lunch. And then one day it's like, is it a wrestling t-shirt? Or did you just make a wrestling reference? Or something? And then we start talking wrestling. Our third guy, Brennan Richards, that no one has heard of, even though he's the best wrestler of the three of us, maybe, and needs to just get out more and do stuff. I've known him since middle school, and he was also part of that little group.
That's awesome.
I was wearing my Crummels and Defarge and Richards shirt earlier today. Why did I change for this? I could have just been like, these guys.
I always forget what I'm
So
wearing because I have so many
yeah,
different T-shirts. I'm
I
not
didn't
gonna
realize
lie.
you were wearing an Elvira t-shirt until we
Yeah.
actually started recording.
The bottom says "Life's a Beach."
Good. Good.
It's a Fright Rag shirt. I have like 6 Elvira shirts.
You can't have
Big
too
fan.
many, so
No, absolutely not. It's if it's not horror movie related, I have probably 3 totes full of independent wrestling shirts. Probably
naturally.
another 3 totes of AEW t-shirts, another 2 totes of WWE shirts. It's bad. I have a t-shirt problem.
Do you like wrestling at all?
That's all right. That's okay.
Yeah. So back to my long-winded story.
Yeah, no, we take a lot of sidetracks here. This is the
I did.
ADD, the ABJ ADD podcast.
Oh, write that down. That's
Yeah.
a shirt for you.
Mhm.
So I go to school for theater, and on the weekends we start backyard wrestling, and the footage is out there. I'm not telling anybody where to find it. If you find it, great. Uh, we start backyard wrestling, and it's just for fun. We just record it. I edit it to like Slipknot or Static X or Saliva or whatever, and I put it
Absolutely.
on YouTube. Like, here it is. It's not even a match. It's just a bunch of moves in a row. One day, uh, it was just a random day. We're wrestling, we're doing stuff, we're recording some of it, and some of my friends from college like came over, and so they just arrived more or less unannounced, and they just sat and watched. And as they're sitting there watching, they're reacting to everything, and they're cheering or they're booing or they're gasping or they're yelling, and like it made what we were doing better. And throughout doing that, like at the end of this day, they left, and I told Crummels and Brennan, and I was like, should we do shows? Like,
When they
should
first
we?
came in, were you like self-conscious about it? Like, oh shit, they're gonna like. Were you
Yeah,
worried about
I
what they
was like,
thought about? Yeah,
I
yeah, they're gonna think
was like,
we're
they're gonna
weird.
think we're weird. Exactly, exactly. And so it's like, I was like, that was like super cool. Like, do you want to like do shows? Like, I have decent computer speakers. We set them up. We do entrances. Like, why not? And so then we casually did that for 4 years. Uh, and in the middle of that, we had the discussion of like, do we want to do this for real? And I was halfway through theater college, and I was like, I have put $30,000 into this. I'm gonna finish college first. And so they waited for me because they were nice. And we were looking at different colleges. We looked at OVW. We looked at Texas Wrestling Academy. We looked at Booker T's school, and we looked at Chikara and in the dojo. And like scrolling through and looking at all the different stuff that all the different places offered, Chikara specifically mentioned that they could train any style. And like maybe that was a marketing thing or something, but I know that I learned every style there.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, why don't we do that? And at the time there were four of us that were going to go. And then by the time I graduated college, it had dropped to two. The one guy, he was just like, you know what, I have a good job, and I'm not getting any younger, so I'm out. I'm not going to do that. Totally makes sense. And he still has that job, I think.
Yeah.
So good for him. The other one was Brennan Richards, who I have mentioned multiple times already. He actually went to Texas Wrestling Academy. He actually went there and did the thing. He was like, I'm not waiting for you guys. I'm going. So then just Crumbles and I moved out to Philadelphia to do Chikara. And there's a whole other story there about trying out first. We tried out for like a scholarship is what they called it. It was the scholarship tryout.
So this story has actually come up in the podcast. So correct me if I'm wrong. You go in and they pretty much say whoever the best of this tryout is gets a free scholarship.
Yeah, basically gets to train at the Wrestle Factory for free.
Well, I interviewed someone who won that scholarship.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Would that have been the guy that beat me for it?
Who beat you?
Travis Huckabee?
Travis Huckabee, absolutely.
I think they only did it twice, so it had to be Travis.
Yeah.
I rub it in his face all the time.
I got to rib him on the podcast because I interviewed Weber and Shay first, and they sent me his old entrance music that he hates. Yes. So then I started the podcast with his entrance music. He's like, oh, well, it's been fun, everybody. See you later.
Good. Yeah, it was. I mean, they brought in a whole bunch of people. Scott Holiday was actually one of them. So that's where I met him. So in the actual world of wrestling, I've known Scott Holiday longer than anybody else.
Wow.
But they brought us in and they essentially ran like a class. And this is what the first day of class is going to look like, with some extra like cardio drills and little wrestling things that we wouldn't necessarily always do on day one thrown in. And they had every one of the trainers and a lot of the like senior guys there watching. So it was really, really kind of cool to just be like, oh, that's Hella Wicked right there. Oh, there's Fire Ant over there. That's Ophidian. Oh my God. Like,
so were you a fan of the product going into the tryout?
Yes, I had to do my research though. Like I said, I'm not the history guy. I'm not the guy that knows all the different stuff. I had to be introduced to everything.
Yeah.
So it was actually Crumbles and Brennan that said, hey, this is the place that we're going. You should probably know what it is. We actually came out to visit like 2 years before we moved out here.
Wow.
And met Hella Wicked, who we didn't know was Hella Wicked at the time, and Quack. And like we observed a class and everything. And by the time we actually came out, they had moved buildings and they'd moved from Huntington Valley to Philadelphia. And so we had a hard time finding the place, of course. But we do this tryout thing. And
one question before you go too far into this.
Yes, before I drag on.
No, I love it. I love the details. I love the attention to detail. I love it because I have so many more questions I want to pick out of it. But
no, of course.
Kind of going back to Travis, who then wins the scholarship.
Yes.
I'm not trying to rub it in anymore here, but he came.
No, it's fine. I rub it in his face all the time.
Yeah, he came in insanely prepared. He said I was someone who was sitting in the crowd. I was a super fan of Chikara. I came in cardio on deck, went to the gym, did everything I possibly can for this tryout. So he came in ready, and he said he was an athlete. He wrestled mat wrestling. Yeah. You came in as a backyarder and a theater kid. How much was of it? How that training and going through those things? How much were you prepared from your backyard days, and then how much of it was like, oh no, I have to relearn everything, or maybe my cardio or my body isn't where it needs to be yet?
Oh, I went into it more or less thinking I'm going to assume I know nothing
Mhm.
because we were, of course, self-trained. Like we had no formal training of any kind. I had been a kickboxer, but I had not done. There goes the dog.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
a running.
I had I had done kickboxing, but no, I had no wrestling training,
Mhm.
and my cardio was decent from the backyard wrestling, and my athleticism type, I guess if that's the word, agility, like
Mhm.
that sort of thing, was decent from the backyard wrestling. And I had actually just, for probably a year at the time, been active in the gym because it was right around when I was graduating college, like the start of my last semester of college, I was 290 pounds and I wore it all in my face and my gut. And I was like, this is not conducive to what I want to do with my life. I should probably do something about this. So I started dieting and I started working out and I cut 95 pounds off.
Wow.
And like obviously cardio improved, the athleticism improved, everything improved. And like we come out and we had a moment where we sat in the car, Crumbles and I, and we were like, we don't know anything. We cannot go in there and assume that literally anything that we did was correct. So we'll just listen and we'll watch. And we like had to have this little like come to Jesus meeting where we were
I love that.
like just listen and watch. Don't let muscle memory take over, anything like that. And we'd go in and I guess we were doing some stuff right. Okay, so the backyard wrestling we did was on a trampoline, I will tell you that. But like we were bumping, like we were like tuck your chin, throw your like the whole deal. So when we got there and that's how it worked and it was as simple as we thought, we were like, okay,
Nailed
cool,
that.
good, crushed it. And then we had seen other training stuff going on, so we knew it was going to be a lot of like somersaults and rolls and like a lot of body control type stuff. So we were mentally prepared for that, even though we didn't really do much of it.
So you came in prepared and researched as well.
A little bit,
Yeah.
but like I, this is going to be out in the public now and everything. Uh, like Travis deserved that. Like
Yeah.
Travis should have won. Travis should have won that. The stuff that I like to rub in his face, though, is so I'm backtracking now. The stuff that I like to rub in his face, though, is they were very, very publicly not unanimous in their decision.
Oh,
And from the people that have spoke to me, they were not unanimous in their decision because they could not decide between Travis and me.
wow. So
Um,
that's a
this is
cool
all
feature.
hearsay.
Yeah.
This is all hearsay.
Who were
Um,
the people who voted?
so Hallowicked was in the room, Quack was in the room, Ophidian was there, Fire Ant was there, and I believe Icarus was involved in the decision.
Fire Ant. What did he ever do in his career?
Right? Who'd he ever beat? Not me. He might have. I don't remember. I often have to be reminded if the one time we ever wrestled each other, if he won. Oh, twice we wrestled, and one time he did win, but it wasn't an official Chikara show. So, like, does that
Yeah.
really count? Come on, come on. But so yeah, when we were leaving, Quack let everybody know, like, hey, we chose Travis, and everybody went, yay, while their hearts, exploded. And then he said,
Now I
but
have to pay money.
anybody that was here, if you reach out within the next week, you get a discount. And like he said that, and Crumbles and I just looked at each other and we were like, discount's great. Let's do it. And so we both emailed him within the next few days and started apartment hunting.
That's
with
so
and
insane. Like
within a month we were out there.
like I was nervous about moving or doing anything, and like I went 2 towns over. You crossed state lines and moved to a bigger city. Like maybe I'm just overreacting to it, but that's a culture change. Like
You want to hear how it can be crazier? In that
yes.
month time where, because we reached out and emailed and we said, how long do we have before we have to start? And he said within a month, which he probably wouldn't have cared. But in that month's time was the first time I got my driver's license and got a car.
Were your parents or guardians like, what are you doing? Did anyone like try to
No,
like Like just
No,
full
I have a
support.
really boring origin story. It's like I watched wrestling and I liked it. So I said I
That's
want
not
to do
boring
that.
what you're
And then
telling
I
me though.
did.
That's so ballsy. I love it. Like that's
On a
what if
macro
people
scale,
listening,
it's
yeah, on
boring.
people listening, like you are the definition of if you want it, go get it. You know what I mean? Like it's not nothing's gonna be handed to you. You're gonna have to be uncomfortable. You're gonna have to make these sacrifices. You're gonna have to move away from your friends and your family to
Right.
do what you need to do. Like it's insanely inspiring. Like it's not a boring at all. The only other aspect to that story that I think is insanely important, just from my short time in this business, is man, sometimes when you're driving for 4 or 5 hours across, because I don't really have anybody that lives near me. So a lot of my traveling in wrestling is I have to drive almost 2 hours to go pick somebody up or get in a car with somebody and then to travel to the show. But a lot of times, just to save me some gas, I just drive straight to the show. But you did a lot of it with your best friend, and you're still there. Like that's a
Yeah.
and the fact that you came into this business with that friend, you're still best friends, is a miracle on its own too. Because like mentally, this business can tear people apart mentally, physically, the whole nine. So I think it's really cool, like that you and your friend left your hometowns and went to Philadelphia and tried out and did everything you're like. It's just like that's a dope origin story. I love that so much.
Right. Like I thought that's just what you did. I like we drove there, we did it. Everybody was like, "You moved from where for this?" I was like, "Ohio." It's like it's the next state over, not a big deal. And then you meet all these people, and it's like they came from New Jersey. I'm like, "That's a whole nother state over,
Yeah,
right?"
but it's like right there. Philly's like across the
But it's
bridge.
right there. Right. I listen. Geography was not my thing either.
Yeah.
So it was like, "You came from Jersey, you came from Delaware. That's crazy." Like, nope,
Well, the
that's
Pennsylvania thing is, and maybe
half
it's
hour
not
there.
just a Pennsylvania thing, is it's just like America, is most people don't leave the 30-mile radius of their home. Like
Yeah.
I'm at this job where I'm working at a factory, and like to tell someone I went to Philly for the weekend, are like, you just drove to Philly? Like it blows their mind because they like I don't drive too far north because that's out of my comfort zone. I don't know where I'm at. Like that's a thing in these small little towns. So to hear
Yeah.
that, like, yeah, that's nuts.
That's just, I mean, that's the life. So my current car, I bought it the week before everything shut down for the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So, so 2020, I got this vehicle. It had 117 miles on it. Today, 3 years later, today, it crossed 87,000 miles.
Jeez.
I,
Yeah. I in a
I
2 year
don't do the
span,
rent a
I
car
put on,
thing.
yeah,
I don't
two
do that.
years ago I got a car and I think I got it like 26,000 miles, and I think when the transmission finally went, I was up to like 98,000. I was closing on the 100K.
Mm.
Yeah, I put a lot on it. But I
I
was also
like
doing wrestling
it's,
and I was doing deliveries. Like I was driving around doing deliveries to make
oh,
money.
so you were just driving, driving, driving.
Yeah, because I was the only way I can find a job in this area that's not like, hey, you have to sacrifice every other weekend and work 12-hour factories. Like I can set my own hours, and that time frame I have, I can bust my ass, and then not a lot of money, but enough to get me to the show that I need to go to not make
Right.
any money, but to chase my dreams,
That's the dream. That's the job.
Yeah.
Like, it's what you do. You know,
So,
I
at what point did you become then the student, and then doing your journey, then becoming a trainer and going that aspect?
so something that's largely thanks to something that the Wrestle Factory did, that Quack did, is he he wanted to bring more people in, but there's always like a weird turnover with students where somebody signs up, they come in, and then they just disappear. And it's because they either they got hurt or they just decided like, this is harder than I thought, or something. And so he developed a tiered system where, much like college courses, it was 101, 201, 301, like, and it gradually got more and more difficult. But it was way, way cheaper than signing up for a full-time like wrestling school. And it was in bite-sized chunks of predetermined stuff that you were going to learn. That was, if I remember correctly, it was 7 weeks of stuff. So
Mhm.
instead of dropping six, seven, $8,000 on training, that was six, seven, 800 or 1,000, not six, seven, 8,000. Like between 500 and $1,000 to sign up for training, and then going, oh, this isn't for me, and then dropping out, and you just spent that money. he wanted people to be able to come in and get that little bite-sized piece, figure it out, and then go, no, and only have to spend $250, $300 on a
I
7 week
love that.
course. Like,
One of
and
the
even
things I
if,
learned is a lot of schools will take somebody in, look at that person and say, you are never, ever going to be in a match, but you're going to pay that school. And then you're a 2-3 year student and they'll just keep taking your money. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and that's
like
kind
that's
of what I like about what I hear about the Wrestle Factor, like how he broke it down into those tiers and like made it cost effective, but enough to so he can keep his business alive.
right. And it worked both ways because it made it easier for more people to come in. So then the Wrestle Factory is bringing in money consistently, but then we're not robbing anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's not paying a $750 down payment, $1,000 down payment, or whatever it was, and then quitting, and then they're just out that money. Because I know
Yeah.
that I felt bad if I lost any students, and typically I would lose probably 20 to 30% of students that signed up. Like 8 people would sign up for one of my classes, and by the time we were done, it would be 5.
Yeah.
And like day one, I started telling people, and to this day this is true. Day one, I say, if you think you want to quit for any reason, one, that reason is probably valid, but two, don't just disappear. Call me, email me, talk to me in person. Like, maybe I can say the right thing that either makes you, turn around, or at the very least, I can let you know that you don't have to keep going and there's nothing wrong with stopping.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's people out there that they go and they do the thing and then they quit and then they don't say anything and then they feel terrible, when it's okay to not do the thing.
Yeah.
If you
And
try it
how
and you
many
find out it's
people,
not for you, it's not.
so many interviews I've had where people are like, I went to go train and I felt like wrestling wasn't my thing, but I am a referee now, or now I'm a commentator, or now I'm a cameraman, or I help make graphics for professional wrestling. And
Mhm.
you're still part of a business that you love and you're contributing. Yes, you're not on camera as like everybody else would be, but you're part of an industry that you cared enough about it to put money into to train. There's so many avenues that you can help this industry and not have to step between the ropes, even if you don't want, if that's not your thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Ref Gina was the first one to say, like, she went to a school and the wrestling aspect wasn't her thing. And she tried refereeing and now she's one of the top refs on the indie scene. So, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, anything's possible. You never know where you're going to
Um,
end up.
Bryce Remsburg in
Yeah.
AEW was the Chikara head official. He this is totally not my story, so I might get some details here wrong, but I believe he signed up to train at the Wrestle Factory, and I think he maybe had issues with asthma or something, and
Mhm.
but he learned all the different stuff that you have to do to be a pro wrestler. It just turned out that, like, maybe refereeing was like, and refereeing is so physically demanding. I would rather be a professional wrestler than a referee.
Dude, I
I see
ref
what
2
referees
matches
do.
just to be like, to fill in, because we have someone that I just did it this season at the Sanctuary. They're like, I'm like, I know enough about wrestling. I can do a match here and there. Like, I first off, I'm not a referee at all. I'd never trained anything. We have someone who comes and they're a wrestler and they never get an opportunity to wrestle because they're always selfless and they put the referee shirt on and they don't get an experience. And it happened for like 5 shows in a row. And I was like, hey, do you want a match tonight? And he's like, yeah, but I like, who's gonna ref? And I said, I'll ref 3 matches. I'll ref the match before, so you have time to go and set up and get ready. I'll ref your match and I'll ref the match after, and then you come out and do the main event. And he's like, would you really do that for me? I go, yeah, man. Like, I want to give you an opportunity to come work. You come here every show and you don't do what you came here to do, but you still help out the production. So I stepped and I was gassed on those 3 matches.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm never doing that
yeah.
again. And then I had to
I'd
run
rather
back
be a
up to
pro wrestler than a
commentary.
referee.
I was dying.
Yeah, people at home, or on your phone at work, or wherever it is that you're watching this, watch the referee the next time you watch wrestling. They don't get a break.
No.
They don't stop moving. They don't stop doing stuff. I respect the hell out of pro wrestling referees, because as a wrestler, sorry to break the I've tried to avoid saying kayfabe, but I can't.
The
Sorry
fourth
to
wall.
break kayfabe here.
Yeah.
Sorry to shatter your perspective here. But when the wrestlers do something huge and then they're laying there for a while, that's kind of like a break for us.
Yeah.
We're catching our breath and we're figuring stuff out. Meanwhile, the referee is still jumping up and down and screaming at us while waving his arms or her arms and counting and yelling to make sure everything is perfectly clear to the audience, to the people at home, to you, and to the commentators, while
But then
someone's
also,
screaming in their ear.
but also
Like,
the make sure they're okay as
couldn't
well.
do
So
that.
you have to like, hey,
Mhm.
or maybe I learned this on the fly. Wrestler came near me like, yo, tell them we're going home. And I was like, oh. So then I had to go over and find a way to act like a referee, but tell the other person
Mhm.
something at the end. And I was like, this is crazy. Like a new
Mhm.
I already appreciated referees so much more, but then actually going in and trying it, it's the hardest job in professional wrestling.
Yeah, some of the best actors in pro wrestling are the
Actually,
ones in the striped shirts
the second
in the
hardest
places
job.
where they wear striped shirts.
People who hold roving cams for 2-hour shows. That is the hardest job in professional wrestling.
Can't do it. Can't do
Dude,
it.
I did one match. I did your match. The main event at, I forget what leapfrog it was, but you guys wrestled in the lights when they put the new lights up. It was you and Crumbles versus the main event. And after the show that match was over, I was like, I can't feel my upper body. I'm dead.
So Mrs. Crumbles, she did most of the filming for our backyard stuff. And
Mhm.
she had to have had probably still the biggest like front delts and bicep on just one arm from this for
Yep.
2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours at a
It's
time.
it's intense.
Like she would run out of tape, switch tapes, run out of tape, and then switch to her phone. And she was like just the champion. Like
Yeah.
she was
Hardest
the
job.
least sore of us doing an isometric workout on one muscle group all day.
Yeah, that's not an easy gig.
No,
That's also it's the
no.
second hard. It goes roving cam and independent wrestling,
Right. Moving cam,
referee, then wrestling.
referee, booker,
Oh yeah,
wrestler.
handshake and hot dog guy. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get two more wrestling and then we'll get into something else here. We went a little longer on that aspect, but matches that matches. I love it. I'm having a blast. Matches that really stand out for you, people you got to work either solo or as a tag team with your partner. What are ones that really stand out for you? Which ones are really special to you? That's favorite ones.
I didn't, again, not the history guy, but I of course knew of Great Sasuke before I went over to Japan, and I had no idea whatsoever to expect from this tour with Michinoku Pro. It was sort of, I don't want to say it was haphazardly thrown together, because it was probably very meticulously thrown together on their end,
Mm-hmm.
whereas on this end it was Quack reaching out to build this bridge, and he said, "Hey, if I'm going to build this bridge with Michinoku Pro, the first people I want to send are Crumbles and Defarge, period." And so there's talks and talks and talks and talks, and the talks fall apart, and then we don't hear anything for a while. Then finally it comes up, and it's like, we're totally doing Michinoku Pro. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have 3 tours. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, et cetera, et cetera. And this is on an email chain, and in the email chain is me, Green Ant, now Ultimo Ant, and Boomer Hatfield, now Weber Hatfield, and not Crumbles. And I'm like, what's going on here? And he said, yeah, they don't want to take a tag team, but I still want to send you first.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay.
Now
And
this
no
is
idea
your
what.
first time leaving your buddy behind here, right?
Yes, this is the first time realistically that either of us did anything solo. I think maybe at the time he had already branched out to some other stuff on his own, but I more or less only worked either Chikara, where every now and then one of us would be in a singles match, or tag stuff with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, hey, now you're flying to the other side of the planet, and you have a month and a half to prepare. And it was like, great, perfect. So I
Was was there any like I don't want to word this wrong, but like any ill feeling of like, man, this is the guy we like. Lee left Ohio to come to Philly to do this, and like now I'm getting an opportunity to go to Japan, which is like the mecca of pro wrestling, and I'm not taking my buddy. Like, was there like bummer on your side? Like, was there any feelings or anything going on from like a friendship aspect?
I think his answer might be different than mine.
Mhm.
But like I think we were both disappointed
Mhm.
because any chance that we get to shine as a tag team, we're gonna blow the roof off of the place.
Absolutely.
Um, if that's the job. If it's like, hey, you got to lose to these guys in 2 minutes, then we lose to those guys in 2 minutes. But that wouldn't have been the case here, and not being able to get that chance, it was like, I guess I got to come up with some singles stuff that I do. Um, I know that he was bummed. I know that I was bummed. Uh, he was almost certainly more bummed than I was.
Mhm.
And like, I'm certain that on a list of people that were going to go, he was on it. But Michinoku Pro is Chikara's cousin, in Japan. Everything is very, very colorful. Everything is very, very big. It's a lot of masked guys doing big, colorful, grandiose gimmicks. And again, a lot like Chikara, it's a lot of guys that work elsewhere as other gimmicks.
Mhm.
And so he wanted to send me, just uh, not to like toot my own horn or whatever. This is just what I was told because of my professionalism and the way that I present myself and the way that I carry myself. He wanted to send me first, and then of course he's going to send one of the ants, and then of course he's going to send Weber Hatfield. Um, and so like next on the list was probably like a Travis Huckabee or
I
another
mean,
one of the
you didn't win the
colorful.
free scholarship, but you got to go to Japan first. Just saying, Travis.
Oh, I rub that in his face all the time. I got to go to Japan first. I won a championship before he did. I was a trainer before he was, and the like the cherry on top of everything is when we debuted, he was our ref,
Oh,
and he was not a wrestler yet. I mean, he
yeah,
was a wrestler, but
yeah.
um, but
I love
so
that
what meant
friendly
a lot to
competition.
me,
Beautiful.
yeah, of course,
Yeah.
and he owes me a singles match. Um,
High tension. Get
what
it done.
pitch it? Um, this is the pitch. Uh,
Yeah.
so I get there and I learn that in my two of the six matches I had over there, over my like 2 week tour, two of the six matches I had over there were trios matches where Great Sasuke was on the other side of the ring,
Ooh.
and I was just like, oh, like okay, and in my head I'm like, I have to be super duper professional, and like I'm not gonna try to pitch any ideas. I'm not gonna try to do anything crazy. Like I'm just gonna let him say anything that he wants, like anything at all, and like he was like, yeah, at this point, like, I'm gonna need you to beat me up, and like we'll do this, and like he's so funny, or he could be so funny. He was very very serious when he had to be. He could be really really funny when he had to be, and talking about what you know the way that he likes to conduct matches. If something funny came up, he would laugh so fully and so like big, and he's like doing the like he's tapping somebody while he's saying something funny, and it's like, okay, so he's all right, so he's serious, but I don't have to like be totally reserved around him.
Hmm.
I can just be a pro wrestler. I can just be myself, and I can be okay because he's a legend, and he's involved in politics, and he's involved in like he's never not masked. Um, so it was huge for me to be able to share the ring with him, and I can't. There's not one photo that both of us are in, and I'm like, um, but so those always stand out to me. Anytime somebody shares clips on online with Sasuke, with Great Sasuke, I go, I got to wrestle him. I got to wrestle him.
That's sick.
Um, and in the first trios match that I did against him and the Brahman brothers is the other one. I don't know if they're twins, but I know they look very very similar. But they always like do semi like gross things. I like they have like green tongues, and they like shave the top of their heads, but they have long hair.
Hmm.
You'd probably recognize them if you saw them.
Yeah,
People
they're
listening at
very
home
like
probably know
you
some
could
of
tell
them.
they're very inspired by like George Animal Steel and like that old crazy wild man style gimmick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit, but they were always with him. So in that first match, my other tag partner, or there was two. One of them was one of the young boys that they had there. Um, Koji Kawamura, shout out to you also, and the other was Jinsei Shinzaki, who, if you know, he was again, I'm not the history guy. He was in the WWF for a while. I don't remember what his name was.
I'm not
Somebody
sure.
is yelling at me in the comments right now, I'm
Yeah,
sure,
someone's like, yeah. Are
but like
you kidding me?
that was also extremely cool. I shared a van with Dick Togo. Like, I'm seeing all these people, and I'm like, I know you, and I
How
know
was it
you,
with the
and
language
I can't
barrier?
talk to any of you.
That's
So
yeah.
I learned. I tried to learn at least like your basic phrases and things. Hello, how are you? Like, nice to meet you. Um, take
That's me
care of
with
me out
Spanish
there.
at work. I'm like, the gracias. They're like, you know Spanish? I'm like, poquito.
Right. So it turns out all these real basic phrases that I was trying to learn, those are all the phrases that every citizen of Japan knows in English anyway.
Yeah.
And for the most part, most of the folks that I interacted with knew a lot of English, which thank God, because like I said, I had a month and a half to prep for this, and I felt terrible. I was like,
Yeah.
I felt it was like selfish is the word of just being like, you gotta deal with me. You gotta deal with the fact that I can't understand what you're saying. You gotta deal with it. Like I
Did they have
felt really
translators there to
selfish.
help at all?
No, not particularly. No. I
Wow.
mean, every now and then I would have to like one of my opponents on one of the nights, Musashi was his name. He probably spoke the least English out of anybody that I worked with there. So for a couple of things, like he or I would have to grab somebody and be like, "Hey, can you like I'm trying to tell him that I want to do this." And then they would have to, do a little bit of translation. But for the most part, it was super easy. Um, I will one more little side thing before I talk about the other matches that mean a lot to me. Uh, the last night that I was there, they wanted to take me to a traditional Japanese bathhouse where they have like a large pool that's like heated. This particular one, that large heated pool was on a full glass wall that overlooked down a mountain.
What?
But the word is right there. It's bathhouse. You go in there and you shower. So everybody goes in, everybody strips down, and they all shower. And I was like, you know what? This is their culture, so that's what we're gonna do. Why not? They're like, do you want like a little towel? And I was like,
Nah.
nah. And
I'll
the
never
guy
see
that asked,
Howie's ever again.
the, the guy that asked literally went, good. And I was like, let's do this. So we do the thing, we rinse off after the match, whatever, we do this. Turns out before we went, they had to call and make sure it was okay for me to go because I have tattoos. Because that's a
Interesting.
huge thing in Japan, or at least it was for a long time a huge thing in Japan. Apparently, it's a little bit more relaxed, but for the longest time, if you had tattoos, period, you weren't allowed in some places. It was very largely associated with
Gangs.
yakuza, the Japanese mafia,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the ring announcer Punch from across the room at the end of the meeting because they gave me a big send off in the pre-show meeting. They're like, Sonny Defarge, his last day with us. He's going home after this. Thank you so much. Everybody claps. And I was like, we're going to take you to this Japanese bathhouse later. It's going to be great. And then we're driving you back to Tokyo so you can fly home tomorrow. Yay! Um, Actually, the next day I just walked to Tokyo with the gentleman that was helping me out, and then I flew home. But Punch, the ring announcer, yells from across the room and he goes, Sonny, do you have any more tattoos? Because he saw what was my only visible tattoo at the time was this. He was like, do you have any more tattoos? And I was like, yeah, I have one on that leg. I have one on that leg. I have one here. I have one across my shoulder. And he just went, hmm. I was like, what? What? And then the guy who was next to me was like, yeah, that's not good. Like, we're going to have to call them and make sure it's okay. And apparently it was because we went. It was a blast.
Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
um, So side quest over.
Well, actually, I want to stay in the Japan.
Oh yeah,
So
no.
obviously, your thing in the back, you have a huge Godzilla going on back there.
Oh, I
Was
do.
that always something you were super into? Like, was Godzilla always a thing? And then you get to go to Japan and get to like go to the
Yeah.
place of the
So
creation. Yeah,
so it was growing up. I had a neighbor that lived behind us. This is back in the day before you could text people,
yeah,
folks. You couldn't just text your friends and everything. If you want to talk to them, you'd have to go there. And so this neighbor lived behind us. And so I would leave my house through the back door, go through a gate, go across the street, and then the friend lived there. And I would go and I would hang out with him, one of the few kids my age in the neighborhood. And one day I just see this VHS collection it's his parents' VHS collection, and they had all of the old school Godzilla tapes, VHS. And I was like, Godzilla, I'm familiar with Godzilla vaguely. When do you hear about Godzilla? Who knows? One day you just know about him. And I was like, I'd like to watch these. And so we watched one, and I loved it. I was like, this was so cool. Awesome. Giant monster. Great. Another giant monster. Great. Now they're fighting and they're blowing up this town. Great. What's not to love? Obviously.
yeah.
Uh,
Monster movies sign me up. If there's big monsters, I'm in. Like, give me Godzilla, give me
mhm,
King Kong, give me Cloverfield. I want all of
yeah.
it.
And I'm not picky. The American version of Godzilla 1999 with Matthew Broderick and Hank Azaria. Sign me up. I'll watch it again.
yeah.
I don't care. Love it.
I like the new Godzilla. That like
The
it's I
new
haven't
ones?
yeah,
Yes.
I'm into
So,
it.
yeah, absolutely. And now it's got the TV show. Um,
Wait, there's a TV show out now? Or
yeah,
it's coming?
yeah, yeah. It might be coming, but it's on one of the streaming services. But it's about Monarch, the company that's in the new movies.
Yeah.
It's about that. It's about that company. And the show is called Monarch something.
I
Um,
did not know this
but it's on
existed.
one of the streaming
I'm
services. It
gonna
may
have to
be
look
like
that up.
Apple TV. Look it up.
Ah,
Write it down.
I have to
I don't see you writing anything down.
I'll have to pirate this. If it's on Apple.
I don't know what it's on. It might be like Paramount or something. Um, and then of course in Japan, Godzilla -1 is coming out soon. So
Yeah.
that'll also be fun.
Are you
Um,
do you prefer the suit or do you prefer the CGI?
Either. I
Yeah.
mean, you got to know that like the art form is going to evolve with the times. I mean, when they got the technology to do it with the CGI, of course they're going to do it with the CGI.
Mhm.
Um, I think I think the folks behind Dragon Ball Z, I think, said it best when they made their most recent movie, full like full computer 3D effects versus having some hand drawn, some computer, where like people were complaining. They were like, I can't believe you're doing all this to change this. Like, I can't believe you're giving into this. And the folks behind it said, we have the technology. Why would we not use it?
Yeah.
It's
Do you have a
there and we could
preference
do
of
so much cool stuff.
do you have a preference of a style of Godzilla look that you prefer more? Because that's like as a Godzilla fan, like obviously there's every Godzilla has different variations, super long tail, shorter
So
tail. Yeah.
so the early where his eyes are like way bigger, it's almost kind of cartoony.
Yeah.
Like not so much that, but when it starts getting a little bit more, and he gets like the furrow in his brow a
Yeah,
little
yes,
bit,
the angry look.
and when it gets there to that point, like that's like the look.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that look right there.
Yeah. He
Uh,
almost looks furry in that look too. Like he has like he doesn't look
kind
scaly
of.
as much. Yeah.
Um, and like it's before the spikes get so blown out.
Yeah.
They're still somewhat subdued. Um,
There's some where the spikes are just ridiculous, and the tail
yes,
length. That what was the one where the tail's like 8 miles long? It's just
they're
too long.
so it's the one where he's also got like that second like head. Oh, it's on the tail,
Yeah,
and it's only like 2 3 years old. Like again, still even the stuff I'm a huge fan of. I'm not the history guy. I
yeah.
don't know the names of all of them. I got some of the books. I got some of the movies. This is not even my poster.
Oh, really?
Really, this is my partner's poster,
That's
not tag
crazy.
partner, romantic partner.
Yeah, yeah,
That's her poster. I just
I
happen to
love
love Godzilla, so I was like, we're putting that up in this room.
yeah.
And then when I do the ABJ podcast, I'm setting my chair up right there.
I
This was
appreciate
very
both of you.
deliberate.
I
This was very
appreciate it
deliberate.
as a Godzilla fan. I eat that up. I love it.
I had half an
All right,
idea of just creating an orgy of evidence behind me of just Godzilla stuff,
that'd be great.
just so that you could say, "So you're a big fan of Godzilla?" And I'd be like, "I don't know, what's Godzilla?"
Who is
While wearing
Godzilla?
my Godzilla T-shirt, be great.
A giant like fire breath tattoo going down the arm.
Right.
I've
Oh, I
never heard
don't
of
have a
Godzilla.
Godzilla tattoo. Ooh, noted.
Okay. Get Godzilla's
Noted.
egg from the Matthew Broderick movie.
Yes, people would love that.
Yeah. Because when people think they're passionate for Godzilla, they think of the Matthew Broderick version of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
where he looks like a giant iguana. Um, so other matches that are important to you.
Oh, so
Side quest done.
the other one that always pops into my head anytime this sort of thing comes up is M Dog 20 Matt Cross. Growing up, I watched WWF. I thought that was professional wrestling, like that was it. And then one day somebody explains to me like, "Hey, have you watched PWO?" And I said, "I don't know what PWO is." By this point, I knew that TNA existed,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Oh, there's two wrestling companies? Crazy!"
And
And
it's
so he was
coming
like, "No,
back.
they're like, you should watch PWO." I said, "I don't know what that is." They said, "It's Pro Wrestling Ohio, and it's on TV." It's like, no way. It's out of Cleveland. It's on TV. It's on like Saturday nights at like 3 a.m., but it's on. They got a time slot. So I said, okay, let me, I'll check this out. And the first time I turn it on, it was a recap of a pay-per-view. And I just said, okay, well, this might not really suck me in. Main event of this pay-per-view is M Dog 20, Matt Cross, and Johnny Gargano,
Wow.
both Cleveland guys.
Wow.
And it was some of the most incredible stuff I had ever seen at the time. Like in my head, pro wrestling was these guys are fighting. This guy beats up this guy for a little bit. This guy beats up this guy for a little bit. Eventually, one of them hits their one big move, and that's the end. And
Yeah.
I'm seeing this match where Matt Cross like goes to the top. He does a shooting star press, and on the way down, Johnny Gargano pops to his feet and super kicks him out of the air. Blam! He lands. He picks him up. He hits his finisher. Never breaks contact. Rolls over. Picks him up. Hits his finisher again. Rolls him over. Goes for the pin. And I'm like, what just happened?
Yep.
What just happened? And I can see the sequence in my brain because I've watched it so many times. And uh, fast forward, I think 12 years. Fast forward 12 years, and last year I had the ETWA Championship, which is a company in northern Vermont. The ET stands for Eastern Townships, and it's actually the Eastern Townships of Quebec, I think. Yes, and uh, and northern Vermont. And I held their title for 800,000 years. And every show I'm defending it against somebody else that they bring in or somebody that I'm in a storyline with or whatever. And they said, "Hey, we have a lead on Dirty Dango, and we're going to bring him in for you to fight him in December." So it was less than a year ago. We're going to bring him in so you can fight him in December. And I was like, sweet, like former WWE guy, really, really, athletic, really, really talented, really, really popular. This could be
Funny. It's a
pretty
funny guy.
awesome. Also very funny.
Yeah.
I was like, this could be pretty awesome. I'm excited. And then he cancels.
Mm.
It's like, okay.
He
So
sucks. No, I'm
then,
joking. Just shit on him.
boo, Dirty Dango. You owe
Yeah.
me a match. You don't. So I don't know how true this part is, but he, at least in storyline, he called in a favor and got his own replacement, and that replacement was Matt Cross. And he's wrestled everywhere on earth. If you go find Matt Cross,
he was one of my favorite parts of Lucha Underground.
yeah, so he's wrestled in every country on the planet. I think he holds championships in like 8 countries right now, and he and I both sort of came up in Cleveland. I guess I technically came up in Philly, as far as the wrestling career, but he and I both came up in Cleveland, worked around Cleveland, never cross paths ever. There was one show that we were both on where he was in the main event, and he was attacked at the end of the match, and I ran out and saved him. That was the only time we ever interacted. So then this match is finally coming up, and I cut like one of my favorite promos that I've ever cut, where I break down the whole thing of my first experience with indie wrestling was watching you and Johnny Gargano. And it was at this time of this year, it was 12 years ago. Like for me, this match is 12 years in the making. Like for you, this is just another match and just another championship that you're not going to win because I'm the best, etc. And it was very emotional for me. And like he showed up and we talked about it a little bit, and we ended up having a really, really fun match. And it really stood out to me, and it really stood out to him, or at least he said so. Maybe he tells everybody this, but it really stood out to him because he said, we called the match, we planned the match, and he was like, okay, so this will be fine. And then the minute I stepped through the curtain, he got excited because usually people bring him in to fight their like top baby face. And then it's awkward because he's very much naturally the baby face because of all the stuff that he can do.
Yeah.
So then it's this guy that's just naturally a babyface that does really cool stuff against the company's top babyface. Like, what's the crowd going to do for that? And at this place, the moment I stepped through the curtain, 200 people in this room just started booing. And he said that got him really excited. He was like, oh, they actually hate him.
Yeah, we're going to do some crowd work today.
This could be good. and so we had our match, and it was good. I clotheslined his head off. Beat him, kept my championship. And randomly on a charity show 7 months later, we wrestled again in a 4-corner tag match. It was like, okay, so we get to do this again. Let's go.
Yeah. You know what? I just realized too. Where did the idea of the character Sonny Defarge, and where did you pull from to create this character?
So at Chikara, Quack kind of gave you what you were going to do.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that Sonny Defarge started as, when you step through the curtain, make sure everybody immediately knows you are the bad guy. You are not to be trusted. And that was more or less it.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of it kind of just came from us. They had like Crummels, that's all Crummels. Defarge, that's all me. Aside from that little bit that we were given. We were given an assignment, and folks watching at home might chuckle if you get what we're talking about, but we were told to watch a movie called The Box Trolls and to watch the villain. And like, okay, there's something like, and the way that he carries himself and the way that he acts and the way that that's the bad guy, even if he doesn't explicitly say he's the bad guy, even if the movie doesn't explicitly say that's the bad guy, you just know. And 7 years later, here I am confessing to you, I've never watched The Box Trolls.
Are they the thing with the big tall hair? The big tall hair and the jewels in the belly? Are they box trolls?
No.
I have no idea what box troll is.
Those are just trolls dolls, I guess.
Maybe. You know what the vibe I got immediately from you too the first time I seen you? You reminded me of the dude from the Wacky Races with the mustache. Whiplash, Wiley Whiplash or whatever.
Oh, Snidely Whiplash.
Yes, and Crummels is the dog that laughs at all. Like,
oh no.
That's immediately the vibe I got from both of you. It's like, you look like someone who will tie some up on a railroad tracks. Like, you just look like that old school cartoon villain. And I think what you guys were
Dudley Do-Right villain.
Yes. Like almost like a vaudevillain type villain type character. But
and
like
that's what I thought you were gonna say.
Yeah, the first time I seen you two, you guys were doing like the, hey, open up the jacket, like I got pocket watches, like, yeah, like which is never buy from those people. They're like they're always trying to like everything about it is like you're gonna get scammed. You know what I mean? Like,
every now and then I would sell something out of my coat. I had stuff in there, like that wasn't for show. I had things, and every now and then somebody would buy a bracelet, somebody would buy like a piece of merch, whatever it was. One show, somebody threw hand sanitizer at me in the ring, and so I picked it up and I sold it back to the crowd. It was great, completely unplanned.
Steal something from somebody in the crowd and then sell it again.
Oh no, they threw it at me. That's mine now. And so I just looked, gave them a look. I picked it up and I said, "Who needs hand sanitizer? Who needs it?"
A
I
dollar.
said, "Give me $5 for a thing," and they said, "I only have $1." I said, "That's fine. All right, that's $1
Easiest
more than I
buck,
came in with."
easiest buck ever made.
Yeah.
Who's somebody on the scene that you haven't worked that you really want to?
Well, you mentioned the Vaughn villains, and they're taking bookings right now. But that's less. I mean, they're technically on the indie scene, but that's less of a indie scene sort of thing, I
High Tension, I
guess.
think, has contact with Simon Gotch. I think they've worked with him before.
I There may or may not be things in the works already.
Yeah,
We'll just
yeah, that'd be cool.
we'll just put that, sprinkle that out there.
Yeah,
Um, there may or may not be things in the works.
I would love that.
But they're on the list. Um, there was a match that I was supposed to have with Effie a long time ago. I would love to have that match.
You mean Daddy?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I am
Uh,
I am a very straight, very confident in my sexuality male. But if I ever had an opportunity, if there was ever a time where Effie's like, "Hey, I'm going to kiss you in front of a crowd," I'm accepting that kiss. It's Effie. Like you just if Murder Grandpa can kiss Effie, you're taking a kiss from Effie. That's just all there is to
yeah, yeah.
it.
But I
He's
would, I
so
would,
goddamn entertaining. I love him so
I would,
much.
I would love to get that match to happen. There's a number of people out there, and of course, on the spot, nothing can. Of course, on the spot, nothing's going to pop right into my head. Um, but they're in there, of course. Um, I can think of a lot of the guys from Camp Leapfrog that I never got to have singles matches with, or even just 2-on-2 tag matches with. You guys like Eel,
Yeah.
like Killian, like all the goons. Like never got to have just a 2-on-2 with them. Never got to have a 1-on-1 with any of them. Um,
Yeah, during that
I
whole
would love to
tag
make
Grand
that
Prix,
happen.
you've never crossed the whole time. You and the Goons never crossed paths,
Nope, we were too busy being the big bad villains.
and they had their whole
Eventually,
story with Darius going on at that time. Like that whole
hmm
tournament had like 3 individual stories going on. Which I love that booking so much. That was such a good.
right?
God, I miss Camp Lee Frog. Oh, what a good
It
time.
was good stories. It was
Yeah,
good stories. It was good times. Just unfortunate circumstances.
yeah. I think it could be rebirthed and brought back into something special. The challenge would be is getting to that same magic in front of a live crowd, because I think what made Camp Leapfrog, at least for the people involved, special is it was like kind of that moment where like everyone would kind of let themselves their inhibitions go because there is no live crowd, and it was essentially
Yep.
just friends. And if you didn't know somebody, everybody was so welcome. I mean, I was someone who no one knew, and I was completely welcomed in and felt like I was part of something, even though I have
hmm
never been a part of something before. It was special. Like I love that time. That's like there'll never be anything better than the time of Camp Leapfrog. Like that was
Yeah.
magical. Go back right
I,
now,
I
High
will say
Tension
high
Wrestling, and
tension.
go watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say high tension tries pretty well to match that
Oh, it does.
energy.
Yes. Yeah,
But there's just
the stuff with
a
you and
lot of
Brian
other
Ace has
stuff going
been
on.
really, really, really fun. I'm a huge fan of it.
I'm proud of the story that we told there.
Yeah.
And I mean just of him. Don't tell him
Yeah.
I said that.
No,
Brian,
we
don't
won't.
watch this.
Cut that. Let's cut
Don't
that out.
don't watch this.
Last
You're not
wrestling
allowed to.
question, and we'll get you out of here because we went really long, and I apologize for keeping you so long.
No, that's not even you. That's
No,
me.
I had
We'll do a part 2 another
yeah, I
night.
had so much goddamn fun with this. But as a trainer, you have a lot of people that you've
Mhm.
got to work with and mold and help become who they are now. A few of them I've had on this podcast, your name has been brought up. Who are some people you got to work with, got to train, that people should know about? I don't want to say who are your favorites, because that's not how I want to word it, but like who are some people that are out there currently that you've had an opportunity to work with and mold, and that people should be following or supporting?
Oh, I can't put over most of them enough. There's all the Lost Boys. If you're not familiar with the Lost Boys, that's Junie Underwood. That's Eighth and Promise. Um, I don't remember Ryan's Lost Boy's last name. I could tell you his real last name, but I won't.
Yeah.
Um, and then and then there's four of them. Find the
Yes.
Lost Boys, book them on your show in a tag match, in a trios match, in an Atomicos match. Book all of them. Fun fact: headcanon, Junie Underwood, that's my grandson from the future. He traveled back in time to get trained by me. Write that down, everybody. It'll make sense one day. Trust me. Al De Niro. A lot of people don't realize that he trained for a little while. He left wrestling. When he came back, I was I was there for the majority of it. I don't think that I was his first trainer when he went back to the Wrestle Factory, but I was definitely there for a lot of it. And like he puts in work, and he puts in work on his wrestling. He puts in work on his on perfecting the moves that he does, on coming up with moves that he does, and he wants to take his character and make it his thing and make it work. And there may or may not be somebody of higher standing, of relatively high respect in the creative wrestling community that told him to drop that character. And I said, sir, if you want to do that character, do it, make it work, because you can. And I think he's doing
Hmm.
a great job at it. um, uh, uh, look for Sir Hugo Bright out there. Again, he's somebody that I trained maybe half the time that he was training, but I've trained him a lot, and I know that he puts in the work, and he deserves it. Um, like he deserves to be noticed because of the work that he puts in. He traveled to Japan just to show up at shows and work crew. Okay, you drive down the road to go show face at a show to do crew. He flew to Japan to do it. Okay, Sir Hugo Bright. Um,
That's amazing.
Brian Ace, obviously. Um, right now, there's a guy. Find him on Twitter immediately. Will Win.
Will
That's his
Win.
name.
What a
Will
great
Win.
name. Will Win.
Will Win. Find him on Twitter right now. He, in the next couple of years, is gonna be your favorite villain in pro wrestling. Find him, watch him. Um, Others that some people are probably already fans of that maybe don't know that I had a decent hand in training them. Max Zero, like, has evolved and changed and grown exactly when he needed to and exactly how he needed to every single time. And he's just going to keep getting better. And hopefully he doesn't get any bigger, because he's so damn big already.
How,
And
I mean, physically
also
we
add
can
him to my
see it.
list of people that I want to fight. Also add him to the list of people that I want matches with.
When you watch him, you see it. But as
Mhm.
someone, as you get to work with and roll with and train with, how actually, like, is he probably the strongest person physically that you've ever got to like
On
grapple
Earth,
with? Yeah.
no, strongest that I've got to grapple with, maybe.
He just
Um,
deadlift like from the floor, just picks them up into a vertical suplex. I'm like, you are a psychopath. And he's
yeah.
unbelievable.
Um, but Max Zero's out there, and already a huge following on both of these. But I saved them for last for a reason, because through through the pandemic, through all the garbage, through all the stuff, over the last 3 years now, 3.5 years now, we grew very, very, very close. And then, of course, I moved away, and we kind of grew apart. But I miss them terribly, and that is Pancakes and Abby Jane.
Mhm.
Um, like, I did not train Pancakes all that much, but through 2020 through the end of 2022, I probably saw him 8 hours a week in the ring, and the same for Abby Jane. Um, when Abby Jane showed up to train at the Wrestle Factory, I nope, you know what? I was going to say I was the face that she saw. That is not true. I was not the first person that trained her in her very first class, but I did lead her second class, I think. Um, and like, couldn't be prouder of both of them.
She was
And
one
they
of the
need to
people
be all over the place.
I marked out for the most during the AEW Dark Elevation time when she
Same,
showed up. Yeah, I was like,
same.
she's there.
And of course, like, on Twitter and in pro wrestling, I'm this just terrible, nasty, mean person. So of course, for me to celebrate that, all I can do is quote tweet it, and I just say "good job" with no punctuation. That's
you
and
you
so that just
wrestled
started
to
being
that.
my thing. That just started being my thing. Anytime Abby Jane would do something, it was good job.
Yeah.
To the point that I think now either her or Pancakes will do it to me occasionally.
Yeah. Where can people find and support you?
So at the moment, I only am active on Twitter, which I don't know by any other name, and Instagram. So that's just at Sonny Defarge. Simple. No spaces, no underscores, no nothing. Just at Sonny Defarge. Currently in the works, at least mentally, is YouTube, a Facebook profile, because a lot of the places in Ohio only really promote on Facebook. So there will be a Sonny Defarge Facebook out there one day, and the inevitable TikTok is coming.
I just say Truth Social.
No.
Could you imagine? We should get everybody to sign up for it and just rechange the platform.
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Could you imagine we just turn into a wrestling platform? Like Truth Social. It's only the truth, but we talk about kayfabe news the whole time.
Don't they have to accept you onto that one though, or something?
I don't know. I never signed up for it.
And then,
it's like, this is really politic heavy. We're only here to talk about wrestling.
Like, what is this?
It's just complete wrestling. I'll tell you what, TikTok has a really good wrestling community. Like I'm very intertwined with the wrestling. It's called Wrestle Talk or Wrestling Talk. It's pretty popular. That TikTok's a good platform to be a professional wrestler on.
Yeah, I recently attended a seminar where one of the things that came out of the person's mouth was basically if you don't have every form of social media, and they listed off everything and included TikTok, they were like, then you should.
Yep.
And I looked at Crumbles and I went, oh my God, am I going to download TikTok?
Yep. I've literally been posting twice a day, 50, every day for 5 years. Yep. It's a lot. It's a lot. But listen, Sonny, thank you so much for this. I appreciate the hell out of you. We're definitely going to touch back on this. Maybe in the future, Not Cool in High School, we will do a review of a Godzilla movie or something fun like that. I know you've never seen it, but maybe it'll be your first experience watching a Godzilla film. It'll be glorious.
No, I've never heard of Godzilla. I don't even know what that is.
It's this giant monkey that they go
over a mythology thing,
and they bring it to New York City. It's great. It's a whole thing.
Oh, Godzilla! Right? Doesn't he fight King Kong? The lizard, King Kong.
Yeah, the big lizard. Dude, real quick, as a wrestling thing, how that's the first Forbidden Door, right? Like the American movie, the American monster of King Kong, and then takes on the Japanese monster films from like when they booked it, like who wins? You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
That's like the first huge crossover.
That was the first Forbidden Door.
Yeah. Huh. I think because it was filmed in America, right? So King Kong wins. See, doesn't he break Godzilla's neck or something like that? In the old film?
I thought he threw him from a building.
Something like that. I thought they fought in the jungle on Godzilla. It wasn't really Godzilla, but it was like a lizard style. Yeah. But they were like, it's not who you think it is, but it was King Kong just tearing apart. Yeah.
I swear they always do something with. It's always something with gravity when it's that, where it's like, oh, he didn't kill him, but like he fell 200 stories. So.
Yeah. Whoops.
Right.
Damn you, Isaac Newton.
That's the cop out. That's the cop. Isaac Newton, when he invented gravity. That's
that damn.
Well, with no Isaac Newton, there's no wrestling. So.
Yep. Well, listen, thank you guys so much. Make sure you check out the links below to support and follow. If you're looking for wrestling classes, hit them up. Go get some training. If you're in the Ohio, the Pennsylvania area, I mean, anywhere, just research schools. There's so many good ones. Like you cannot in the Northeast quadrant of the United States between 5 states. If you can't find a good wrestling school, it's your fault. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. And do your research, reach out to them, see if you can observe a class, reach out, see if they do tryouts, see if they do open sessions, like something like that for that sort of thing. The place that I train now, we do a tryout first. And it's not a tryout. It's not you trying out for us. It's you trying out for you. So you come, you do the thing. And if at the end of it, you go, I think my spine is falling out of my body. I don't think I should do this. Then you tried, and you know.
there's another school I just found out about. It's probably been out for years, but I just learned about it. I won't put it over just in case it's like a conflict of interest or anything like that, but it's in Philly, and very talented people are running that school. I would say about 4 people. I think they have an ant problem as well. I think,
Yes.
yeah,
I know the
very,
one.
yeah. Like I said, if you in that area cannot find a school or good people to train you, you're out of your mind.
Right.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next time on the ABJ podcast. We'll see you for episode 109. Who is it? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see you next time. We're out of here. We're back.